MacVoices is sponsored by MintMobile. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Hi, I'm Chuck Joyner, and this is a MacVoices briefing on 5 more things you can do to improve your video conferencing. Folks, I got a lot of feedback on my last briefing about improving your video conferencing, and a lot of people asked if there were any other tips I'd like to share. And there obviously are, since here we are in another briefing. So, without further ado, here are 5 more ways that you can improve your video conferencing. Number 1, center yourself on screen. This one would seem pretty simple, and I'm sure you've all read the rule of thirds about for photos and videos about how taking things off center or putting them in those third sections makes the video or photo a bit more interesting. But I think video conferencing is an exception because you really are the attraction. You want to be front and center if you're speaking, and you want to be front and center and paying attention so others can see that you are paying attention. If you look at the TV news, you'll see that they pretty much do that with live reports or whatever, unless there's a good reason for them to be off to 1/3 or the other of the screen. They might be having a guest walk into the shot. They might be putting up a video or graphic asset or showing something in the background, to make sure people can see that. But for the most part, they are to be the center of attention, and you want to be the center of attention in your video conferencing. And when I say center, I'm also talking about vertically, not just horizontally. So you don't necessarily need a lot of room up here. This is one case where you probably are taking up 2/3 or better of the screen. But again, take some of the TV reporting as your news, because that's what you're used to seeing, and that's what others are used to seeing. And that's the way you want to appear when you're in a professional video conference. Number 2, avoid talking over others. Now, this is sort of an acquired skill, and it can also be a little bit of a challenge because we're all used to interacting together in one room. And it can become doubly difficult if there's any kind of lag for either distance reasons or just system reasons for the video conference. But if you can avoid, when someone is speaking, if you can avoid doing things like saying, "Oh, yeah," or "I agree," or, grunting or whatever your acknowledgement, because what happens there is two things depending on this video service that you're using. Number 1, it might grab the audio away from the speaker, so all of a sudden they're hearing your affirmation or your grunt or whatever, and they're really not hearing what the speaker's saying. The second, though, is if you are using automatic camera switching, it will grab the camera and pull it to you, even though you're not really saying anything. You made enough of a sound, it thought you had something to say and pulled it over to you. And that becomes distracting at best. So that's something you want to avoid. In the first video, I suggested you find the mute button and learn how to use it, and that sort of applies here too. If you really have something to say, by all means, take yourself off mute and say it, but then put yourself back on mute. Or if you have that habit, like a lot of us do, of trying to acknowledge things, try to have that mute button on. Or train yourself not to do that, because again, it can be distracting. And you see this all the time, especially when you have someone on a video conference from a phone and they haven't muted it. The camera will swing over to the phone icon as opposed to being on the speaker. And that's not something you want to be responsible for, because let's face it, when it does that misdirection and goes to you or your phone number, then everyone knows that it's you that is screwing up the video conference. Number 3, raise your hand. This is sort of in keeping with number 2, but if you have a lot of people or a lot of active people on a conference, it may be a good idea just to, if you have something that you want to say, raise your hand. And that way the moderator of the call can either call on you, or everybody can just acknowledge that, okay, you had your hand up first, and so you would be the next one to speak. Now, it sounds a little childish, and there are even some services that have a raise your hand feature. Zoom is one of them, built into the software. But there's nothing wrong with doing it just the old-fashioned way. And if you think about it, there's a reason that Robert's Rules of Order were put into place. Now, I don't think you have to do the whole, the chair recognizes or the gentleman yields the floor or any of that. But maybe just a little bit of that can go a long way to helping a conference stay orderly and effective. This edition of MacVoices is supported by MintMobile. If you're still using one of the big wireless providers this year, have you asked yourself what you're paying for? Between expensive retail stores, inflated prices, and hidden fees, you're being taken advantage of because they know you'll pay. Enter Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile provides the same premium network coverage you're used to, but at a fraction of the cost because everything is online. Mint Mobile saves you on retail locations and overhead, then passes those savings directly to you. I've been using Mint Mobile for quite some time now, with no difference in the voice or data coverage or quality. The only difference is the cost. I'm not paying for that mall store that I never visit. I'm not paying for all the advertising the big cell carriers use to get more customers. I'm only paying for what I use. That makes Mint Mobile more efficient, and I like efficiency. And lower prices, of course. So the question isn't whether you should try Mint Mobile or not, it's why haven't you tried Mint Mobile? What do you have to lose? If you like paying big cell carrier bills, well, I can't help you. But if you want to make a change, here's what you need to do. To get your new wireless bill plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped out to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/MacVoices. That's mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Mint Mobile for their support of MacVoices. Number 4, keep the camera steady. You might see yourself as a mover and a shaker, but the last thing you want is to be a mover and a shaker in video conferencing because it can be disturbing at best, motion sickness inducing at worst. If you're using a laptop or whatever, that's usually not as big a deal, or definitely not a desktop. But if you're on your iPhone or anything else, it can be a little disconcerting because even though my hand is moving hardly at all, you can see the images all over the place. And heaven forbid if I take it or really go crazy, you can see how distracting and how ugly that is. So that is not something you want to do. And it also goes against some of the things we talked about earlier, trying to center yourself and keep yourself consistent. So by all means, if you're on your iPhone or whatever, try to find a place to prop it or get yourself a little mini tripod with a clip. They are only a few bucks and it can make a big, big difference. And if you're on your desktop or whatever, look, it's okay. Sometimes you do have to relocate and adjust yourself a little bit on the camera. But for the most part, do your best to stay still and not give everybody the shakes. Number 5, use screenshots. For in-person meetings and presentations, the phone on your camera has become the new notepad. It seems like very few people sit and scribble notes anymore. They take out their phone, they take a quick shot of what is up on the screen or anything that the presenter is sharing. And I would submit that you can do the same with screenshots for video conferences. If someone is sharing a screen during a video conference and you want to capture it, learn your screenshot keys and take a quick screenshot of it. And also, this is a great way to document who is in meetings and who is called into meetings, because most of the services either allow you to see who the attendees are, they let you and the attendees share their names so that we all know who's there. And if you're on the phone, it usually shows a phone number. So if you do a quick screenshot of this, then you will have documentation of who was at your meeting and who called into your meeting, so that you have that for future reference. And if you ever need to dispute anything, you've got it right there. So again, learn the screenshot keys on your phone, on your iPad, and on your desktop, and use them during video conferences for your notes. And I'm going to repeat bonus tip number 6 from the first video. When you're doing a video conference and your camera is on, remember, we can see what you're doing. I saw this happen in a video conference just today. Someone was obviously on camera, they were not completely paying attention, and they totally forgot that their camera was on too. And they were engaged in activities that weren't terribly embarrassing, but it was pretty clear that they probably would not have chosen to broadcast that had they realized. So don't forget, when your camera is on, other people are seeing you. If there's any doubt in your mind, do something. Find a cover or something, or do something as simple as throw a cloth over the camera just to be sure. Those are 5 more tips on improving your video conferencing. I hope they help. If you have tips that you think would help us and improve our video conferencing, please drop me an email, chuck@MacVoices, or even better, share them in the comments on this video on YouTube or Facebook. That's a MacVoices briefing. I'm Chuck Joyner, back with more soon. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.